Okay, let's move on to Tottenham against Chelsea. Spurs players decided to snub attacking intent during the course of this game, and then they decided to snub their manager. Thomas Frank pointing to the supporters, Jed Spence and Mickey van de Ven walking past him and totally ignoring him. Can you understand their frustrations after losing a big derby? Sometimes you're not feeling great. Sometimes you do things in the heat of the moment. Or is it totally out of order? How would you handle it as a manager, Kev? Because it's not an easy situation, especially when you've only just walked in.
No, it's not an easy situation, but I think Thomas has handled it fantastically well with the media. You know, it could have been something which is made a big thing about, but he sort of quashed it right away, didn't he? With his words, really, just sort of playing it down, understood it. Yeah, they're going to be upset, but what he's trying to do is trying to to sort of say we've got to show appreciation to the support as well, even when we do lose, as well as when we win. But when I've been as you know, I've been a player as well, and when people are telling you to do something, and you're at that point where you're at boiling point, you don't sometimes listen. So he understands that emotion as well. So I think that's where it is, and I think it's just something which needs to be put to bed, and they would have discussed it within the the confines of the office, really, and then it'll just be put to bed.
Yeah, it's not just players that don't listen to their managers. Producers have been telling me and Crook to do certain things for ages, and we still haven't done any of it. Randall Kolo Muani only just got to the club, dead leg, doesn't really want to play as the focal point. He wants to come in off the left-hand side. Dominic Solanke, been injured since the beginning of the season. Not entirely sure that at the top of the season that Thomas Frank was suggesting that he was going to be the number 9 anyway. There was already a sort of discussion that maybe Richarlison would be that man. He hasn't pulled up any trees, and Tell is still a very young man. That area of the pitch, they seem to have spent a lot of money and brought in a lot of players, Crook, but it isn't right, is it? And if you looked at the statistics from the weekend game, I mean, they barely threatened Robert Sanchez's goal. And bearing in mind his reputation as a bit of a occasional dropper, you would have thought that they did their best to try and put him under pressure.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I was at a wedding on Saturday, so we were sort of following this really on the stats page. But the stats made pretty grim reading for Tottenham. This looked like a 1-0 battering in Chelsea's favour, and I've watched the game back now, and obviously it could have been a more convincing victory. But you're right to point out the issues at the top end of the pitch. Mateus Tell, Kolo Muani, they're the same signings for me. You know, players who had big reputations at one stage in their careers when they first burst onto the scene, haven't quite lived up to those reputations. They've ended up at Tottenham and treading water, really. Solanke's been a huge loss. When you look at the way
Yeah.
that Thomas Frank and his Brentford team played, they need that focal point at the top end of the pitch. He had it with Ivan Toney for so many years, at the G-Tech and at Griffin Park before that. He hasn't got it at this moment in time at Spurs. Richarlison is not the answer. And that's why they're struggling to create opportunities and struggling to score goals. I feel sorry for him because they finished just outside the relegation places last year. It was a squad that was in need of a massive overhaul, and they didn't spend the required money. So what do Tottenham fans and even some Tottenham players in Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven really expect to happen this season?
Look, Tottenham fans haven't really taken to this Thomas Frank unit either, have they? I mean, and then I can understand it because there's a lack of adventure about their play, but they started the weekend third, joint top goal scorers. I mean, do you have to think, Kevin, there needs to be a little bit of patience here because he's in a situation where he hasn't got the best front line. It still looks a little bit light to me. But also, he needed to plug that defence because that defence was conceding far too many goals. And this team were losing too many games.
Yeah, I think look, everybody knows, and what Tottenham fans have got to do is give him time to sort of put his squad and his team together. We thought, as Crookie said there, Solanke's been a massive miss to him. To have that focal point would have given him a real good start, and it would have helped them an awful lot, especially in their home games, where he can be a bit more, defensively minded, and he has got a real good understanding what the sort of The problem is that they haven't sort of found that flow at home yet. They've got Momo Kudus, which Richarlison, we thought at the beginning of the season, he's found a new lease of life under Thomas Frank, but he's sort of gone back to being the normal Richarlison we all know. So now it's just about, I think, time with Thomas Frank. But again, as you say, to be in, the top half after what happened last season is a massive, you know, feather in his cap at this moment in time, and to do what he's done with the defence and them being looking as mean as they are defensively, I think is a credit to him. So I think it's just going to take time and a couple of windows for Thomas Frank to get his team the way he wants it to be, and it's just going to have to be a bit of patience from the Tottenham fans.
Yeah, I mean, look, they did concede chances. Let's not pretend they didn't. Vicario made some good saves again, and that is a theme of the season so far. He might be a little bit tricky when it comes to coming for crosses and high balls into the area, but he makes some good saves, doesn't he? Chelsea definitely showed some more attacking intent, and they could have won by more goals if it hadn't have been for the goalkeeper. And there was a bit of needle as well in this match, which we always like in a London derby. We like a little bit of needle. Men in Black, we'll look at that with Chris Foy. Caicedo, absolutely immense. And I think I said a couple of weeks ago, he is probably one of the best midfielders in the country, in possession, out of possession, winning possession. Saturday, he was absolutely brilliant at that. And he made the goal by pressing high up, winning the ball back and managing to force it through to João Pedro. I mean, Declan Rice will certainly have a say when it comes to who's the best midfielder right now, Kev. But as someone who's played in that position, as someone who's been around those players, tell me what you think about Caicedo.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that summed him up really. Him going, seeing it, notice it, knows when to go and sort of bite and understanding the game, wins that, gets that moment, and obviously his passing, everything. He's got everything. He's similar, to what I seen in Declan day in day out. So nothing but praise. He's one of them who can do everything, I think, and he's now sort of starting to see the best of him, as we are now with Declan being in the team, being a bit higher up, can play higher up. I said it all the time while I was at West Ham. He can be like sort of the Steven Gerrard of this era, if you like. I don't think he'll probably emulate what Steven done or anything else. Don't get me wrong, because I think Steven's probably the best, but them two are certainly in the I would have loved to see them two players in my era playing in the Premier League, to see if they are what we are all talking about. But he really does. I really do enjoy watching him, I must admit.
Yeah, Chelsea getting the victory again. I think it's only one defeat at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think it's the
Yeah.
only. I think they've only lost one of the last 14 now against Tottenham. It's a record that keeps going on, isn't it? Eh?